Oh, I have been longing for this day. The Carlos Sainz revenge arc is back on. And yes, a certain Bottas quote circa Melbourne 2019 does come to mind. Maybe a touch harsh, but the catharsis is real. Baku could easily be described as the finale of Carlos's revenge arc, in that he got a podium before Lewis, but I'm convinced this story is not quite over yet, because after months of derision and foam from some of you lot out there, Carlos Sainz has actually been able to prove what he is capable of doing at Williams when everything actually goes right for him for once. Yes, you might be describing me a touch harsh in saying that a lot of mistakes have been his own doing, but, well, some of them have been, but many have not been. All part of the growing pains of the Williams team and the FW47, which the team hadn't really been paying much attention to, save for making sure it doesn't catch fire and getting its weight down a bit. And I'm quite sure that many Williams fans out there, including probably you, are more than happy to say, oh, our latest podium, our proper podium, Carlos, you won't have to say Lance Stroll again. And yes, I know, George Russell's podium kind of counts from Spa 2021, but we don't like talking about Spa 2021. Does that really even count? Well, maybe only to lovers of marzipan. But in all seriousness, this was the twist in the tail that Sainz's move away from Ferrari needed. And it manifested plenty of jibes towards said team, not from Carlos himself. Although the cackle he gave on Sky Sports' lie detector feature, it does very much ring in my mind as to what's going on at Ferrari right now, where Team Lecfosi and Team LH are bickering over who deserved 8th place. This is Ferrari we're talking about here. I don't recall it getting this desperate during the Annus Horribilis that was 2020. But what does this achievement mean for the team, and for him specifically? Well, this is what Carlos said after he managed to secure this, for your consideration, what he truly feels. Him. What everyone else does is not my business, to be honest. What I care about is that the first opportunity that I had to score a podium with Williams, and the first opportunity Williams had to secure a podium. We took it, we scored it, and there it is. I think out of everyone that's changed teams, which is not an easy task nowadays, I've been very competitive from the first race, very quick. But I didn't have results with me. I didn't have results to prove to myself, the team, and everyone, that some good things were about to come, but in the end, they did. I think life has taught me many times that this sometimes happens, that you have a run of misfortune or bad performances, but then suddenly life gives you back if you keep working hard with something really sweet like this. I mean, Carlos is pretty qualified in saying this because he came back from one of the biggest misfortunes any person can have. Really serious surgery with the appendix thing. He goes and wins the ruddy next Grand Prix. That's some balls right there. But what really jumps out at me is that Carlos is in the zone. He's not interested in comparisons or narratives here about other drivers not reveling in their own misfortune. He's more focused on what he himself is doing. I mean, that is quite legit and very laudable. After all, he's kind of reached the top in regards to F1, having raced for Ferrari and held his own against Leclerc, with a few wins to show for it, as well as securing yet another forever friend with Charles Leclerc, as well as chalking up their time with Lando Norris. To me, everything after Ferrari is new game plus. Alright guys, that was a smooth operation guys. And also that he managed to persist through all of the misfortune, which really was starting to get a little bit silly, because it just seemed like one thing after another, that he just couldn't get out of the way of, catastrophe with colliding with other people, which did make us, including myself, start to actually question whether or not this was the right fit or not. Well, I think we can all shut up about that now. I mean, Carlos is ultimately right. You do end up with a really low period and then you suddenly come roaring back again, like with Max Verstappen this year, to name but one. And the Baku result proves that Carlos is not a glory chaser. He resisted the temptation after qualifying on the front row to go after Verstappen for a cheeky punt, or trying to get back past Russell after the pit stops. Instead, he used all of the tools and fortune that he did have in defending against Antonelli, and he ultimately prevailed. To me, that was pragmatic, not desperate. Class. There is another talking point here. Sainz has been pushing back against the fashionable Hamilton comparisons after his Ferrari switch. Granted, Carlos kinda revelled in the comparisons at the start of the year, when there was no meaningful data about Williams' own prospects for this year, but once the season began, he's actually been quite silent on the topic. So I can imagine that many people from Team LH and the Lecfosi are quite appreciative that Carlos is not using every single opportunity to rub salt into the wound at the moment. And it also may tell you that he is keeping the eyes on the prize, and that is to bring Williams back up to the top instead of trying to take cheap shots at other drivers. Like, it seems pretty much everyone at the top is taking pot shots at Yuki Tsunoda. You had George's Team Verstappen quip. You had Lando Norris bemoaning the fact that he couldn't get past Yuki. But in any case, this conduct that we saw from Carlos this weekend, as well as the performance, that's the kind of driver that Williams really needed to go alongside their mainstay Alex Albon. Those two together, oh, absolutely wonderful. Because they are so in step with this team. They are so in sync. And that this year, it's all about just trying to muddle through, just make do with all of the frustrations, the trials, the tribulations, the many operational errors that comes with having two elite drivers, which is something that Williams has not really had to deal with in over 2 decades. And then the frustration that's born from a sudden uptick in pace that you didn't expect that would happen this year. Because I still remember James's quotes that, you know, just a few months ago, he would have gladly taken a P8. And then after that, after getting a few of them and even some top 5s, an 8th place felt like a disappointment. The goalposts do shift when you actually start to get results. And now look where Williams is. They got 100 points to their name. They, again, no longer have to go back to 2017, the Lance Stroll year, to go, yeah, that was the last season where we actually looked decent. No, this year, they look more than decent. Seriously, 2026 hasn't arrived yet, and they've managed to reach that target and have a convincing 5th to their name. They've done that while focusing mostly on just getting the weight down on the 47 and the cooling fixes, and they're not chasing dead-end upgrades, all the while putting the vast majority of their time and effort into the 48. That's structural progress, not some kind of silly sugar rush or high. And you could easily argue that Vowles has had to suffer his own fair share of slings and arrows. After the honeymoon period of 23, 24 looked wobbly. I remember some people even calling for him to be fired or something like that. But now, this result in Baku suits his trajectory too. So here are James's own comments for your consideration as well. His thoughts on the matter. Extraordinary. I've had the pleasure of having many podiums in my career, and this one will stay with me forever. It means a huge amount to me. From where the team was, on our journey to where we're going, I've wanted Carlos to have a great result like this since the beginning of the year. This suddenly builds your confidence and momentum, and allows you to step forward. That's what I wanted for Carlos. I think he definitely needed it. We all needed it as a team, though. It just shows to the world that this is absolutely where we are, and this is the journey we're on together. And, yeah, it just makes me wonder, what will happen if Carlos actually wins a race? Will we just get people up there just going, "Hey, James, Carlos, kiss!" But yes, I think he knows the significance of this feat, James. It's not only legitimised his appointment at Williams, it's etched him into its history. And again, it's pushed the Lance Stroll memories to the back of the line. And when Vowles said that Sainz needed this, he was right. Without results, Carlos had been fading from view, mocked more than respected. And I could see that actually from the metrics of the Carlos Sainz Revenge Arc updates. They would continue to bleed viewership, and I would get many comments saying, "Stop jinxing Carlos already, Law!" Well, look where we are right now. I don't often get smug, but in this case, I am more than happy to make an exception. Oh no, sorry, it should be And I think what we've seen right now is that one big Sunday result can really erase many of the maladies and all of the negative comments aimed at Sainz and the team. And sure, Carlos is still quite a ways behind Alex in terms of points scored, but in terms of the standings, Carlos is closer to the bottom end of the top 10 than he is to maybe somewhere near the bottom. And I think it will do some real good wonders for the last couple of races when he had bones to pick with Lawson and Behrman, and then it all culminating in him being actually having his 2 penalty points being erased from the FIA, a huge precedent, a huge weight off his and Williams's mind. It was a moral victory, that one, very much needed. And then what happened in Baku? This is a perfect reset point. In fact, you could argue that this whole thing was a triumph during Baku qualifying, it being riddled with red flags, disruptions, many reasons for crises, and Sainz put in the time, he didn't get flustered. He mattered most when the 2 McLaren drivers dropped the ball. And James's own words are also hinting at a little bit of a recruitment drive off the back of this podium. The phrase, "this is the journey we're on together," It tells current staff and potential new hires that the upward slope is real and that there has been a tangible result, that their horse is the one worth backing or hopping on should people at other teams be looking for a career change. That really matters because Williams has been going through a huge rebuilding phase in the last couple of years after James made the famous quip about breaking everything before rebuilding, after the whole fiasco of revealing that Excel spreadsheets were being used here. Well, quite frankly, with Williams right now, they have now got a whole clean sheet. And the Atlassian sponsorship? No, it's not that company trying to ride the coattails of Formula One and Williams' success. They're working closely together, and the results they've been able to manifest has actually been wonders. 100 points for this team, who could barely struggle to maybe get into double figures for the many, many years. Oh no, I can easily imagine that people are looking at Atlassian and going, dang, man. Oh, they're reaping the rewards this title sponsor. Oh, it's been boon after boon. And this podium around Baku, it means a lot because it's such a tangible comparison to what they did last year with the FW46. That being quite a beast and a very, very chonky one. And even then, they were still able to get, with Alex and Franco, a double points finish. 12 months later, they're on the podium. And it wouldn't surprise me, as Gunther Steiner mentioned on the Red Flags podcast recently, that maybe this achievement that Carlos has managed to do with Williams might encourage a lot of people within Ferrari who were maybe Sainz supporters and were sad to see him go, to maybe jump ship. That, according to Steiner, some Ferrari crew members might regret the choice from upper management to switch Carlos out for Lewis. That maybe they might want to go there, and that would tie into what I think Vowles is up to with this statement that he said. It's an achievement and a proclamation. Come one, come all. Join a legacy team's return to the top, and we're staying there. Now, for any Lewis fans out there, I do not blame Lewis for what's going on right now. He's having to muddle through, make the best out of a bad situation. I mainly put the responsibility on John Elkann and the Benedetto Vigna, the fact that the Ferrari Road Company is meddling in the affairs of the Scuderia, something that Enzo Ferrari tried to make sure that didn't happen for 6 decades. That barrier has been eroded, and all we've seen is one bad thing after another. It's been a disaster because micromanagement has gotten in the way of actually racing. So Ferrari's poor season? Oh, that's on John's shoulders, quite frankly. But despite that, the irony here is unavoidable. Ferrari let go of a proven race winner and they've slid backwards in form, while Sainz has gone from strength to strength, managed to muddle through adversity and maladies to then get Williams' first podium in 8 years. I'm not really counting Spa 2021. That was mainly a podium for the qualifying session, quite frankly. That's exactly the kind of contrast I think goes into fueling a revenge arc. Oh, it's still very much alive, people. Even if Carlos is avoiding framing it that way and not reveling in other people having a bad time of it. Could Sainz kick on from here? Sure, but it all depends on the tracks coming up. James has specifically delayed the hype trains from setting off from the Williams station, with having low expectations for Singapore, but yeah, them also hoping for the best of a bad circuit. And Williams has had car for years that have been happier at lower drag tracks anyway. But there have been some surprises in the past. I still look back to Zandvoort last year, and then you see Alex managing to score points that weekend and thinking, how the heck did he get there? Same goes for Albert Park in the midst of all of the rain chaos. Albon being able to fend off a Ferrari and then just go, how did he get there? Well, now with Carlos, after what happened on Saturday, we can all now say, how the ruddy heck did he get up there? Oh, that's going to make Carlos beam like a Cheshire cat. And it actually reminds you of a quote that Sainz made right at the beginning of the year, that he was mainly thinking the best that Williams could hope for are like 7th and 8th. Maybe the only chance of the podium is if other teams are having a bad day. Williams making the most out of a bad situation. Well, look what happened in Azerbaijan. I rest my case, and he was the one to do it, as well as all the other times that Alex was able to do, but to a slightly lesser capacity. So I expect that maybe the next time we'll see Williams having a chance at the podium, a real one, will be at Las Vegas, because even in 2023, they looked on course for a double points finish until strategy and operational errors got in the way amidst a safety car. At some other tracks, it might be a case of grinning and bearing it and hoping that Racing Bulls, the closest team to Williams at the moment in the constructors, have bad days of their own. It's a serious thing for them to consider, because if you look at the points scored, even though Carlos had a fantastic day and secured 15 points, Alex's day was shockingly bad. And both Racing Bull drivers managed to score points, only 4 less than Sainz was able to net for Williams. There is still a very big margin, 29 points between those two teams, but that could easily be called away since many drivers are scoring. You go and look back down to, other than the Alpines of Colapinto and Doohan, the lowest scoring driver has 16 points to their name. That's unheard of. That's crazy. The amount of opportunities and how close the field has been this year is mad. It's not going to be like that next year. Oh no. And hey, this isn't a dig toward Franco, by the way. He's doing the best he can with such a terrible machine that not even Gasly can get much out of. He was lambasting what was going on at the Baku Grand Prix, and the only thing that he could really do was just hustle desperately against Colapinto. But going back to Williams, they really deserve this podium, and it's a real sign that all the operational gaffes that we saw earlier in the year, especially around Miami, have actually been resolved. It's not all been talk, there's been a bit of walk. All the way up the spiral staircase to the dais, as well as the team playing to their natural strengths. I think the main thing that this year has shown us also is that Carlos didn't just pick Williams because it was his only option. Clearly, Vowles knew what he was talking about and knew which song to sing to serenade Sainz. Yes, becoming the only other driver than Alain Prost in having managed to achieve podium finishes for all three legacy teams, yeah, that's McLaren, Ferrari, Williams, is an impressive feat. It's not some kind of gimmicky or gaudy symbol or anything like that. It's something that actually has some substance to it. It's a performance W in my book, and that is something I think Carlos will hold dear onto his legacy. The only other person that's managed to do what he did for a legacy team was Prost. And also, considering that in modern Formula One, you go for multi-year contracts, you get drivers lasting several years at teams, and in the case of Max, potentially only being in one wheelhouse for the entirety of it, and Lewis's case mostly at Mercedes, doing this at three big teams like those, that's unheard of in of itself. And it also confirms the adaptability of Carlos, and yet again, it goes all the way back to what he was doing at Toro Rosso, in that he improves the team from the status they were when he arrived. When he leaves, they're in a better place. Renault, Toro Rosso, McLaren, Ferrari, and now Williams. If he left at the end of the season, 9th to 5th, oh, job done. But no, he's going to be around here for quite a while yet. And in Carlos's mind, again, despite being way behind Albon in terms of points, he's been the one to actually bring Williams back to the podium. It was him that did it, and that is going to make up for all of the bad days that he's had to suffer through during the season, as Williams have been getting their act together. And Vowles is going all the way to the bank on that hand over fist himself. It's a psychological boost for all concerned, even Alex. Some might say this is a bit of a fairy tale result, but honestly, I don't think Williams, Vowles, and Sainz see it that way. They want to go after championships. This is part of the story. It's part of the process. The only fairy tale elements to be had here is Sparkles the Unicorn. Now, of course, you might be wondering if Alex will be affected by this, and as I said in my winners and losers video, he will be affected, but not in a negative way. This could spur him on more than ever. Because hey, if that car can reach the podium, if the top teams have a bad day in the office, then who's to say that Albon can't achieve that same fate too? He's gotten very close many times this year. I still remember, well actually I can't get it out of my head, that quote that Albon said when he could actually see Verstappen and Russell ahead of him, podium places, and he was salivating at the prospect. I don't know whether that's because that was a really gutsy quote, or it's just a very, very weird and quote. Needless to say, Albon is fired up this year. He managed to survive the sudden surprise of Colapinto last year after having really gotten into a big fish status, getting into a comfort zone, and he was thrust out of by the Argentinian after not really being challenged by Nicky and Logan in the previous couple of years. As far as Alex is concerned, it's yet more proof that him getting in with Williams was the best thing that could have ever happened to him. He was not consigned to repping Red Bull and DTM for the rest of eternity. And it also actually takes away some of the chagrin that Williams faced after it was Sauber that got their first podium before them, you know, in quite a long while, because it was done without major chaos coming from rain, which was what Hülkenberg got with Sauber. Now, I'm not saying that Sauber didn't deserve that podium. They really, really did. They made the best out of a horrifically complicated situation, and Nico really needed that demon off of his back. It just means that for Williams, this is a really special moment, akin to what McLaren felt around Brazil 2019, and that being given by, well, the same Spanish man. The trophy that Williams secured will hold pride of place in a similar way to what the Interlagos one does in McLaren's trophy cabinet. And again, what really helps is that neither driver, as of now, are political forces. They're in this together, like how Carlos and Lando were over at McLaren. If anything, Sainz's podium raises the ceiling on what Albon can achieve with this package for the rest of the year. And then going into next year, that being the prize that both of them really care about. So, if anything, I think Alex could be on course of maybe getting a cheeky podium around Las Vegas after having plenty of experience with the Williams machine and knowing the full capabilities of it. Because it does make you wonder what Williams could have achieved had Alex gotten into Q3 and not had a mardy of a time. And it was such a shame because that was a really chaotic qualifying session, and as we've seen this year, Albon thrives when things go nuts. As well as time management, let's not forget that one time in 2023 where he managed to get a P9 for that FW45 after having only come in at the final lap to change tyres. That was a masterclass in tyre preservation that has sort of faded away into the obscurity of legend. So yeah, I think the door is open for Alex to be able to achieve what Carlos was able to achieve last weekend. And I think he's in a much more comfortable position, Alex is, than he was last year, where he kind of went from a big fish in a small pond, and then after what Franco did to him, a fraud in waiting, some people described him as. Oh no, he's a mainstay of Formula One now, no question, alongside Carlos. And then there's this quote that I remember Carlos made recently, that the only thing he missed from his Ferrari days right now is that he's not in the hunt for wins and podiums at the moment. Well, that's changed now, hasn't it? He scratched that itch as he fought and held on for that third place. And again, I'm glad he didn't overdrive the car and try for something that simply isn't realistic for he and the team right now. Williams aren't hunting for wins this year. They're using this year, like Sauber/Audi, as a dress rehearsal for 2026. You know, ironing out the larger and medium-sized kinks. That means everything is ready to go come March next year. So in my mind, what Carlos has been able to do is procure a reset but with teeth. He silenced the noise in style with that podium and reminded everyone he can still summon front row pace with clean racecraft. Vowles sees it, Albon hears it, the paddock feels it. And I, for one, taste that. The revenge arc is alive and well. Now what Carlos has got to do after this is manage to get more Q3 appearances and stay within the top 10. No more hustling when times get rough. And I think also with this P3, it's going to change the perception of how his fans and other people, other fandoms, actually look at the guy. Because for the fans, it reminds Sainz that, hey, he's still got it. Look what he can do when he actually has a good time in the office on Sunday. And for the paddock, it actually makes people think that, hey, he's actually a really big cornerstone here. And this achievement with Williams is absolutely remarkable. This is yet another big team he's been part of as they've been seeking to improve themselves. Should the time come and Carlos chooses to move on from Williams, he's done everything he possibly can do with that team. Who's to say that maybe McLaren or Ferrari might call him up someday and want him back? I think Carlos, like with Alex, they've made themselves very hot property when their contracts start to come up for renewal. And I think this video over here might be hot property in your eyes. I'll go and meet you over there. So, I'll see ya.